Do short theme song intro. Hello, welcome to Left of the Box, Let's Talk. Bonjour, bienvenue. I'm Sandy. I was working on a script and it wasn't coming together. I wanted to explain why I cover mainly Canadian topics and why I feel Canada sucks. When I was working on it, I couldn't find any humor. When living outside a privileged bubble, you see how horrible this country really is. I still intend to dig into this, but I needed a break from it, and something in the news fired me up in a way only a few subjects do. So on to a much lighter note. Abortion! Sorry. Yeah. If I were to get pregnant now, I will not hesitate to get an abortion. How's that for an intro? Please hit my buttons, subscribe, and follow me on Twitter. And if you can, become a patron. Every little bit helps. Link in the description box below. Ever since I was old enough to realize you didn't have to grow up and get married and have kids, I knew I didn't want to. I still grew up, that was inevitable. But the major goals in my life of no kids or marriage have so far been achieved. Granted, it's not like marriage was ever a prospect. That requires someone interested in dating me first. Ooh, yeah. Kids, on the other hand, I've participated in activities that can result in babies. I've had sex, is what I'm saying. A few times, I'm not a virgin. I've been laid. But the risk of getting pregnant was never something that worried me. More about that in a bit. One of the reasons I cover mainly Canadian topics is because us Canadians tend to pay more attention to what is happening in the States than to what is happening here. And some things we should pay attention to them for. Like right now, all signs are pointing to abortions being banned in about half of that country because of their ultra-religious right-wing Supreme Court. This enrages me. What is happening there stresses me so much. I find I need to unplug from American news. And it lights a fire under me to look at what is happening in this country to make sure we never end up like them. Is abortion legal in Canada? Yes. Does that mean it's accessible to all? No. Do we have to worry about our right to choose being taken away? Not yet, but if we don't pay attention, we will. From Wikipedia. Abortion in Canada is technically legal at all stages of pregnancy, regardless of the reason, and is publicly funded as a medical procedure under the combined effects of the Federal Canada Health Act and provincial healthcare systems. However, access to services and resources vary by region. While some non-legal barriers to access continue to exist, Canada is the only nation with an absolute no legal restrictions at the federal level to access abortion services. Nevertheless, few providers in Canada offer abortion care beyond 23 weeks and 6 days without medical reason due to professional medical guidelines. For those of you who don't math, 23 weeks is close to 6 months. Abortion was banned shortly after Canada's creation. Then in the late 60s, abortion for a few specific reasons were legalized. But it wasn't until a court ruling in 1988 that found criminalization of abortion and legal restrictions violated a woman's, they might want to update that language, right to life, liberty, and security of the person granted under the Canada Charter of Rights and Freedoms. This is a much more solid ruling and harder to circumvent than Roe v. Wade down in the States. So we are safer, but not safe from it being taken away. But just because it's legal doesn't mean it's accessible. Depending on the province you live in or how far away you are from medical services, it can be prohibited. Something like that. Traveling to areas to have access to abortion is a luxury many can't afford. And if a person is in an abusive relationship or is trying to hide they're pregnant, going on a trip for a few days may not be an option. From the Action Canada for Sexual Health and Rights website. Access at a glance abortion services in Canada. So this chart here goes over information like total providers, medical abortion providers, surgical abortion providers, rural providers, and all that sort of stuff, and the gestational limit. So as you can see, across the provinces, it is a mixed match, but granted, some provinces have a far higher population than others. But if you look at somewhere like Alberta, their rural providers are 0. Alberta is a lot of rural. Like, I mean, it's a lot of rural. And these hospital providing abortion cares, that's 1 in Edmonton and 1 in Calgary. That's not near a lot of people in Alberta. There are towns that you would have to drive hours. Planes that fly in between them, like small planes that fly in between them because they're so remote. Trying to get an abortion service in Alberta, if you don't live near one of these main centers, is extraordinarily difficult if you don't have the financial means or the support from people in your life. There's also this interesting fact here, safe access zone legislation. And as you can see, some places have a few clinics, some places have no clinics. I guess this means all, not that there's many in Newfoundland to begin with. In Ontario, it's 8 clinics in injunction. What this means, this safe access zone, is that protesters have to stand a certain distance away from abortion clinics so people can have easier access without feeling threatened. Because a lot of them are already going through something pretty traumatic. Having people yell and scream at them doesn't help them feel better. And further down in the article, which is linked below, access to abortion beyond the first trimester. While close to 95% of all abortions performed in Canada are done in the first trimester, before 12 weeks gestation, some Canadians need access to services beyond 12 weeks. There are many reasons someone might want an abortion after 12 weeks, including a delay in scheduling an appointment, having to raise funds to travel, not knowing they were pregnant, health issues, facing a personal emergency, etc. And depending on a person's location, they may have to travel out of province or out of country to access abortion beyond 12 weeks. On Prince Edward Island, for example, abortion is only available until 12 weeks gestation. In Nova Scotia, until 16 weeks, and in New Brunswick, only 14 weeks or 16 weeks, if you can pay for the procedure out of pocket. Yeah. In Yukon and Nunavut, the gestational limit is 13 weeks. While abortions after 20 weeks are statistically very rare, less than 2.5% of all abortions, there are people in Canada who require abortions beyond 20 weeks for serious and important reasons. There are only 3 service locations in Canada that offer abortions up to 23 weeks and 6 days. 1 in British Columbia, 1 in Southern Ontario, and 1 in Quebec. 3 locations in Canada. Canada is a very, very big country. No providers in Canada offer abortion care beyond 23 weeks and 6 days. When they are beyond 23 weeks and 6 days, many Canadians end up having to travel to the United States to access services with little guidance or support from their government. All provinces and territories should ensure access to abortion beyond 20 weeks gestation. In the meantime, all provincial and territorial governments need to improve their out-of-country coverage and ensure all expenses are covered prior to travel. Currently, many provinces and territories download the cost of travel and accommodation to individuals and charities like Action Canada. We're here to support, but governments have an obligation to provide cost coverage for all healthcare needs. Now, keep in mind that anyone trying to get an abortion after that 20-week period, it's usually because something has gone tragically wrong. Generally speaking, by that time, the person wants to keep the baby. So to then make them have to navigate the system, to travel to the United States, to put fees on top of it is only adding to the trauma that they're already enduring. So yeah, abortion is legal in Canada, and it's treated the same as any other medical procedure because it is one. However, it doesn't mean it has to be provided or is accessible to all who need it. Just like there's nothing stopping me from owning a house other than skyrocketing housing prices, the legislative poverty I'm forced to live in because of my disability, and because housing is a commodity, not a right in this country, even though the United Nations includes safe housing in the Declaration of Human Rights. Healthcare in Canada is not universal, and there is massive discrepancy as to who can get the medical care they need. And what we do have is constantly being chipped away at, another thing we Canadians aren't paying enough attention to. So are we at risk of having the right to choose being taken away? Not yet, but the Conservatives are laying the groundwork. Make no mistake about it, if abortion is banned in the States, it shows the folks here who want to take away that right what is possible if they work hard enough. From CTV News. Majority of Conservative MPs vote in favor of defeated sex selection abortion bill. Huh. Look at that. What's that date? Look at that date. Look, it's June 2nd of what year? What year is that? June 2nd of this year. Just this past summer, this bill was brought to the House. A majority of Conservative leader Erin O'Toole's caucus voted Wednesday in support of a bill that sought to restrict certain abortions, even as he voted it down, saying he respects a woman's right to choose. It's nice of him. Saskatchewan MP Kathy Wagenthal, brought forward Bill C-233, which sought to ban doctors from performing an abortion based on the sex of a fetus, which was defeated in a 248 to 82 split. All but one of the votes cast in favor came from the Conservatives, who have 119 members, with one other coming from a former party MP and leadership contender, Derek Sloan. So yes, O'Toole voted against it, and so did much of the members of his front bench. So Wagenthal had argued that her private member's bill was more nuanced, and it had to do because the majority of fetuses that are aborted due to gender are girls. A person has a right to have an abortion for any reason they want. It is not on us to decide the future of their family and how they're going to be raising their children. I might not agree with all the reasons people get an abortion, but I'm also not the one that has to raise their child. And also, I don't think this is actually a major problem in Canada. This is more them just trying to chip away at the rights. First it'll be this, and then it'll be something else, and then it'll be something else that they want to restrict abortions for, until finally it's all abortions. Which sounds like a leap, but it's not. It's just how it starts. This really is conservative politicians testing the water to see what they can get away with. This being brought to a vote in the first place is a warning flag. Now picture a young, white, hardcore Christian male who's against a person's right to choose and who has had to come out and say he's not a homophobe because he has previously said words and has supported policies that would indicate he is. This is exactly who you would picture. Sam Oosterhoff is a gem of an MPP here in Ontario's Niagara West riding, the youngest MPP to be elected in this province. Let's see what he's been up to. From Global News, MPP Sam Oosterhoff affiliates himself with a group that compares abortion to the Holocaust. Oh, what's this? Look at that date. March 15th of 2021. This was this year again. This year. Niagara MPP Sam Oosterhoff judgment is being questioned yet again after affiliating himself with a group that has compared abortion to the Holocaust. Oosterhoff, who serves as Education Minister Stephen Leacy's parliamentary assistant, is scheduled to speak at an event titled Gen Z, Challenging Abortion in Politics on Wednesday. Challenging abortion in politics. Just remember that. This event is being organized by student-led university groups, including the University of Ottawa Student for Life, Carleton Life, blah, 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 blah. MPP Sam Oosterhoff will be speaking about abortion, being a young pro-lifer in politics, again, just remember that part, organizers say on Facebook. Oosterhoff is a member of the Progressive Conservative Party of Ontario and was first elected at the age of 19 in November and blah, 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 blah. When asked about his involvement, he wrote, "I don't think anyone is surprised to know that I am pro-life. I have always been very clear where I stand when it comes to protecting the right to life." So why was I saying, keep that point in mind, that he was there as a politician in the Conservative Party who is also pro-life? Because of this from Doug Ford. CBC News. Premier's office won't say what Ford told Niagara MPP Oosterhoff before anti-abortion event. The Ontario Premier's office was silent on Thursday about a promised talk between Doug Ford and MPP Sam Oosterhoff, who was the featured speaker at an anti-abortion event Wednesday night. But the Premier's office is making it clear that Oosterhoff did not represent Ontario's PC or the provincial government at the event. As he stated in his opening remarks, Sam was there in his own capacity. Ford's Director of Media Relations, Ivana wrote in an email to CBC Hamilton. He was not there representing the Ontario PC Party or the Government of Ontario. On Monday, Ford told reporters, "I'll be speaking to Sam tonight, but no details about that conversation has been shared with the public." And Ivana refused to comment on what the Premier and the MPP discussed. Yeah, so Doug Ford refused to denounce this activity. The party still supports this MPP. And they try to claim that he wasn't there in a professional capacity, and yet that's exactly why he was there. That's why he was the key speaker, is because he is a politician. And he happens to be a politician with the Conservative Party of Ontario. So to try and say that the party doesn't endorse him by not speaking out and saying it was wrong or kicking him out of the party, they are endorsing him. Sam has always been clear as to who he is, and that is why people elected him to office. If people who are pro-choice don't start speaking up and voting against men like him, what is happening in the States is only a matter of time before it happens here. It's important for folks who are pro-choice to speak up and push back against anti-choice rhetoric. But more importantly, we have to work to change the minds of people who are anti-choice. This is not easy, and don't expect results after one conversation. It takes time, and you must counter what they believe from a place of truth and compassion. If you need help with what to say, I've linked to an article below. It was written 10 years ago from a person who was pro-life and deep in her heart believed abortion was murder. The author, Libby Ann, details her journey of how she came to realize that the pro-life movement was more about controlling the lives of childbearers and not about preventing abortions. It's a longer read, and some of the things she says are now dated, but it's an excellent breakdown of talking points anti-choicers love to use. Considering I remembered this article from way back then and found that I had bookmarked it, should be a good indication of how powerful I feel it is. On the flip side of controlling the choice a person has of bringing a life into this world, eugenics. This is supported by the Canadian government. I should know. I had eugenics practiced on me. Hold, wait. Before you react, know that in my one isolated case, this is what I wanted. Let me go back to what I was saying at the beginning. Personal story time. Ever since I knew you didn't have to have children, I knew I didn't want to. I knew I didn't have the emotional or financial resources to raise a child, and I knew I would have been a horrible parent, especially when I was in my early 20s and my mental health was in chaos and I was struggling to support myself. I knew having kids would be detrimental to myself and them. And if I'm being honest, I'm not in the lives of my nibblings the way a pibbling should be. Yeah, I Googled it. Pibbling is the unfortunate most common gender-neutral term for aunt-uncle. Nibbling for niece-nephews, that makes sense, but pibbling? That's stupid. I'd much rather use ankle. Make this video go viral so that term becomes the more popular one. Please? I would love to be a better ankle to them, but despite how much I want to, I can't. I don't have the tools needed. I find I'm a better support from a distance. The rare times I'm around them, I never yell or get mad, so I come across as a calm and a stable, adult. I joke with them and make them laugh. I'm someone they can turn to if they need help. They know they can be open with me and I'll be understanding. This is the best I can offer them for now. But mainly, I never had any desire to have children, and I'm not keen on having children in my life. I still have nightmares of becoming pregnant. In my dream, I am freaking out, wondering how the hell this happened, ready to sue the doctors involved. Who am I going to give this to? And I want it out of my body right now. I wake up and I am in a panic. I'm breathing heavy and I'm grabbing my stomach. And then I'm constantly like, okay, it was just a dream. It was just a dream. It was just a dream. I saw no possible future of my life where having children was beneficial to what I wanted. But I think what really pushed me over the top was my grade 11 biology teacher saying, think of genetics like this. You're going to give birth to one of your family members. I was like, oh my God, give me that scalpel over there right now. I will take care of this myself. This is not the selling point you think it is. So I knew I didn't want children, and I thought about what my options would be if I got pregnant. Keeping the child was a hard no. I could give it to one of my family members, but there were a ton of issues with that I wasn't prepared to deal with. I could put the child up for adoption in an overloaded system and run the risk of them tracking me down someday, wondering why I didn't want them. And of course, abortion was an option, but at that time, I didn't know if that was something I could do. Not to mention the toll of what carrying a child to term would do to my body and mental health. I was already hanging by a thread. My hormones getting out of whack or postpartum depression would be a risk to my life. Because of all of this, I knew the best line of action was to ensure I never got pregnant in the first place. In my early 20s, I heard stories from people wanting their tubes tied and the doctor patting them on the head and telling them they might change their mind, even when that person was in their 30s and already had children. I still hear these stories. It can be extremely difficult to get your tubes tied depending on who your doctor is. Look, if a person gets their tubes tied and later regrets it, they have to live with that decision. We make decisions all the time that can have lifelong consequences, yet when it comes to this, suddenly we're incapable of thinking it through and we need to be told what's best from us from people who will have no hand in raising our unwanted child. And then when I was 25, I was getting a checkup with my doctor. Turns out I was on Depo-Provera, which is a form of birth control, 5 years longer than you should be. We were going over other birth control methods when I kind of just offhandedly said, I'd just get my tubes tied if I could. She said, given your background with mental health issues, I don't think that would be a problem to push through. And 3 weeks later, at 25, with no children, it was done. This was, without a doubt, the best decision for my life. Personally, I'd rather grow old and regret not having children than having children and regret having them. If at some point down the line, I don't know, I get hit over the head and suddenly realize I want children, then it's on me to find a way to live with my earlier decision. But at this point in my life, if I'm one of the freak cases where the tubes have reconnected, and if I were to get pregnant, I will not hesitate to get an abortion, and I would do so enthusiastically. I would feel nothing but relief once the procedure is done. I have no desire to have a child enter my life. At work or social groups, it's common for people to ask me how many children I have. And when I respond with none, they tell me I still have time. Then I'll say I don't want any, and some of them will say, you'll change your mind. But others appreciate I was able to identify I didn't want them and never gave in to the societal pressure to have them. Not that I ever felt much of that. There was also never any pressure from my family for me to have kids. Some of the women admitted they had been asking their doctor to get their tubes tied, and the doctor kept denying their request. I would say I was able to get mine tied with no kids, and they would ask me how. I didn't want to tell them it was because of my mental health, So I would say it was because my doctor was a woman and she was respecting my choice as an individual. I even believed that was the main reason, that it was because I so confidently assured her this was what I wanted. Some of the women I talked to didn't buy it because they were also very confident in telling their doctors. So I stopped mentioning I got the procedure done. It wasn't until I was a lot older before I realized why it was so easy for me. I was giving a talk about poverty, and during the question period, it was brought up that some people hold off having kids because they can't afford it. I mentioned that I felt fortunate I had got my tubes tied and revealed what my doctor had said about my mental health. The woman I was talking to responded, "So, eugenics?" That's when it clicked. And I tell you, it was a kick in the teeth when I realized my getting my tubes tied had little to do with my choice and the doctors respecting my right to self-autonomy and everything to do with eugenics. The state deemed me unworthy to have children. I just happened to also not want them. But if I was deemed worthy to be a parent, then despite me not wanting to be one, I probably wouldn't have been able to get the procedure done. For those of you who are unaware, eugenics still happens in this country, and it's often folks of color or indigenous peoples who are coerced into sterilization, or it's flat out done without their consent. Another group of people included in this practice are folks with mental health issues. The overwhelming percent of people this has been done to wanted to maintain the choice to have children. Who knows? If my choice to ensure I couldn't have children was taken away, even when using birth control properly, it's not 100% effective, so I could have gotten pregnant. And then what? What would my life have been like? When I'm around my nibblings and other children, I'm really good with them. That's mainly because since I didn't have children, I was able to focus on getting my mental health relatively stable. I could do the work needed to become a better person, and so I can be there for them if they need me. We need to flip the script. A minority of people will jump at the chance to control the lives and bodies of a majority of people, and the majority of that minority are white men. There's a simple way to eliminate almost all of unwanted pregnancies. Make it illegal for men to have sex with a childbearer without a condom unless that person wants to get pregnant from them at that time. Done. Eggs won't get fertilized, so it takes away even the argument that regular birth control is bad because it prevents fertilized eggs from implanting on the uterine wall. There'd still be accidents, condoms aren't 100% effective, but then almost all other abortions would be done because of risks to the parent or if there's issues with the fetus. That is a simple, non-invasive way of eliminating most abortions. But the same men who think they have a right over the bodies of others clutch their pearls when people simply encourage more condom use. Of course, I'm not suggesting this should become law. I'm using it as an example of the double standard child bearers deal with daily, and to point out, if the goal was to reduce abortions, it's doable with condoms. But it's always been about control and power. The choice to bring a life into the world is the most consequential decision a person can make. It doesn't just affect you, but the lives of others. If a person doesn't have the resources needed to raise a child, the government should be stepping in to help. No one should be denied being a parent if that's what they want, and no one should be forced to have a child if they don't. If a person makes the decision to have an abortion for any reason, it doesn't help their life to force them to carry it to term. Whew, okay. That was a doozy. This is a polarizing subject I'm passionate about. I'm sure it'll come up again, unfortunately. Hopefully I was able to get across what I wanted, how I wanted. This is a very nuanced topic and people put meaning into words based on their experiences. A quick update. Thank you everyone for helping me reach over 1,000 subscribers on my channel. As promised, I'm looking into if I can do a live stream. I've done a private test and it failed miserably. Constant freeze framing and lack of understanding how technology works. I'm going to be seeing a friend of mine to see if the issues are my computer or my internet. I know I've joked about my nerves doing a live stream, and while it's true I do have some apprehensions about it, I'm also greatly looking forward to it. There is so much I want to cover that doesn't fit into a regular video, and I love having discussions and interacting with people. I want to have back and forths and include you in what I'm doing. This channel was never just about me. It's about what we can do together. But the sad reality is, I might not be able to for a while. Here's a tweet from my friend screaming into the wind. We talk about inequality when it comes to all other forms, but for some reason we ignore the inequality that applies when it comes to content creation. The better or more expensive the equipment, the more views you can grasp from a seemingly tech-heavy audience. It seems at times to be more about the quality of video and less about the actual ideas expressed. And yeah, he's right. I live with poverty, and like most who live with poverty, it's hard to get ahead and get noticed in the YouTube space. If I have to upgrade my internet, I need to consider if I can afford a higher monthly expense. The computer I'm doing this on is a laptop and it's old. I can hear it rattling. The camera I have is meant for board meetings. The light I have is for makeup tutorials. The only good piece of tech I have is the mic, and it's not mine. There are people on YouTube who have little to say and their content is objectively empty and useless, but they're successful because they have the equipment needed to make the quality of their videos look good. What I need is a teleprompter, dual monitors, my own mic, better lighting, all of it. I need a complete recording studio. So until I can get the equipment needed, please continue to be patient with the quality of my videos and know that as soon as I can, I will live stream. Please hit the like button, subscribe if you haven't already, share my content, leave words in the comments section, and follow me on Twitter. All of this helps get more attention to my show, and who knows, if I get more attention, I might even get a date. Not that this is why I'm doing this, I'm not. No, really, no. There's easier ways to get a date, I think. I know times are tough for everyone. If you can, please become a patron. Link in the description box below. A special thanks to those of you who already have. Your faith in me keeps me going. Salut, à la prochaine. Thank you for watching and stay tuned. I'm Sandy, wishing your tomorrow is better than your today. But just because it's legal doesn't mean it's accessible. Depending on the province you live in or how far away you are from medical services, it can be prohibitive.